Good evening, everyone. How y'all doing? Good, good. So, as you all know, you're here today to learn about this subject of both acquiring and retaining customers. And just to give a quick precursor, first off, my name is Tenisio Seanima. I'm with Georgia Organics as the Farmer Services Coordinator. But going back into that precursor, I'm also a fellow farmer. Just left my site actually trying to get some last minute things done, so excuse me for being late, but y'all know how the life of a farmer is. And it is one of those things where it's a labor of love often, but you can't stop doing it. So I'm here to not only speak to you all from like this pie in the sky nonprofit world, but as a comrade as well too. And everything that I'm going to be sharing with you are things that I do directly both in my business with the affiliation of organizations that I work with, such as Habesha. That's why I have our shirt on today. I've worked with Truly Living Well as the sales manager and several other farms around the city. Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge how and why I was brought here. I want to give thanks to CFM and their partnership with Food Well Alliance for having me here today. And hopefully you all are going to gain some very powerful information. This is going to be a very interactive session as well. So please enjoy this food that you have, but you're going to be getting up and moving around here very shortly to have an opportunity to share best practices with each other. I feel that there's probably an answer to every single problem in this room sitting right here, and we're going to uncover that this evening. So with that being said, what I want to do is kind of get into some of the unorthodox methods that I feel we all sometimes don't get an opportunity to pay attention to when it comes to customer retention and development. So this presentation that I'm going to be doing today is actually an excerpt from an entire presentation I do called The Agricultural Myth. And that presentation is actually based upon a book that's called The E-Myth. Has anyone ever heard of The E-Myth before? All right. So The E-Myth is basically a book that highlights systems. The easiest way to look at it as a person that is self-employed works on their business, or works in their business, excuse me, and a person as an entrepreneur works on their business. So the goal is to be able to not be another boss, be subject to another boss, if you will. You can be your own boss, and then you're basically subject to the same rules you are when you're subject to someone else. But if you set yourself up as an entrepreneur, when you want to take a vacation, you can still take it and the business is running. And your customers are still coming to you. They're still staying there. When you're sick, you know, or when you're having that baby, or, you know, as Rusty asked me, have you been to Texas yet? You know, he's heard me mention that in previous presentations. I have the ability to do that. That's what we all want to be able to do with our businesses, right? To get them to the point to where they scale. So with that being said, one of the first steps in really being able to accomplish that, at least from the level in which you all are at, because you all are business owners or function within one, is to have an operations plan. Now, this has, of course, been something rooted specifically towards farms, but look at this information in general as well. If you're someone that is a value-added product producer, for example, these same rules will apply. So when you talk about operations planning, ultimately what we're talking about is creating just that opportunity to be able to see on paper, how am I working on my business? I've pulled up this particular slide because specifically for farmers, there's an organization called Spin Farming. I don't know if y'all have ever had a chance to hear about them, but what they've literally done is they've taken a case study over 3 years of managing a farm that was 1 acre in size. And in that case study, they proved that 3 years in a row, they were able to make $140,000 gross off of a single acre. And so how they were able to accomplish that was literally being able to draft an entire set of systems, rubrics in producing product, and then, of course, being able to literally manage the distribution and marketing of that product in a way to where they manualize the entire thing. So though, of course, there's never any magic bullet because all variables in your scenario versus yours are very unique, this gives you a template to work with. And so there's these type of templates in many different forms for all businesses, and I would encourage you just to get into being able to leverage what we call corporate coaching. Because corporate coaches will oftentimes, it is what it is, sell you these, but they're worth their weight in gold. And I would encourage anybody to take those very seriously. But Spin Farming has an entire library that you can actually order from them for an extremely nominal cost. I think you can get their whole library for about $80. And it goes through a whole series of different systems, if you will, to run your business. So now, I'm going to skip over to, because these are all just pages from that same manual. And in other settings, I would go over those more deeply. I'm going to run through just a quick few examples of some other tools that have been made in the farming and agricultural community that can be used. And just so you all know why I'm going through all this is that oftentimes, again, customer attention, we get the perception is like, all right, I'm at the market, I've got this good product, I collect some emails and hopefully I can stay in contact with them, or I make that relationship and that connection with people, and those are definitely awesome things. The key is you don't need to be the person doing them. You need to have developed your business to where somebody else is doing that work for you. So a lot of this stuff I'm going over is reaching down deep into pulling that out of you, that you can actually trust that you could teach somebody else to do that work for you. So Veggie Compass, for example, is a whole farm profit management system. And what it basically allows you to do is itemize and categorize your entire business so that you'll know, okay, these are the products that are going to cover operations costs. And these are going to be the products that are going to cover my marketing costs. And these are going to be the products that cover so on and so forth. And being able to literally itemize your inventory so that you can prepare for that scale. You'll know that, okay, if I want to be able to hire this individual, let's say to do email marketing for me, then having my business inventory itemized in a particular way allows me to literally know how I'm going to project moving into that position. And marketing is one of those things where it should almost be the largest part of your budget. So then that means you got to have inventory to support that part of your budget, right? Versus just saying, all right, I make this one product or these 2 or 3 products and we sell them, and then this amalgamation of money that we've brought in just gets divvied up. You can actually be a little more succinct with how you separate your inventory. So Veggie Compass is a free tool that's online that you can actually research and learn about how to use it. I'm not going to go over QuickBooks. It's understood by all of us, I'm sure. Nobody not know what QuickBooks is for? All right, cool. So Wave, however, has anybody started using Wave in their business or heard about Wave? Anybody heard of it yet? No? All right. So I would challenge you to not pay QuickBooks and use Wave because it's free. And it's, at least from my experience with it, pretty much just as valuable in its free version as QuickBooks would be in its paid version. And it has its own paid features as well, too. But what it again does is put you in a position, let's say from an HR perspective, of managing your business much quicker and much more efficiently, to the point to where literally you could just hire this out to a virtual assistant online and spend your time focusing more on marketing, product development. So again, what I'm really doing in these first few slides is shrinking your tasks down to things that you can train someone else to do for nominal cost, so you can get to that space where you can focus exclusively on how to retain the customers and build your business. Wave is an excellent tool for that. It'll allow you to synchronize your personal account, all of your business accounts, payroll, you name it, all into one free source. Let's scroll down. These are, again, just pages from that same tool. TaxJar. Basically, if you're using Square, instead of you having to worry about going and tracking down the Georgia Department of Revenue every single month, have those taxes automatically deducted from your Square account when you're doing your transactions. That's the simplest way to put that. So instead of having to check in on me, it's every 20th day of the month. I check in and literally have to spend about 10 minutes reporting all this information. I learned about TaxJar. Now, as I'm doing the transaction at my booth, it's going to the Georgia Department of Agriculture Revenue immediately, saving myself time.
Transaction or
Per transaction. Yeah.
straight to their account?
For anything that would qualify. Now, you know, the good thing is in our world, there's a lot of things that we don't have to worry about, you know, with regards to tax reporting. But there are certain things, at least within my business structure, that I do have to consider. And that saves a whole heap of time right there.
And that's linked through Square.
It's through Square. So when you go to Square, there's an apps section where there's all these supplemental apps. And those apps, this is one of the apps that's in that section.
That's saving some pain in the accountant to do it.
That too. Exactly. Organizational structure. Now we're getting a little more into who these people are. They're going to be doing some of this work, how you can get them to do it for little to no cost so that we can get down to what we came here to really discuss tonight, right? So first thing is recognizing that an organizational structure begins with you. So oftentimes when you ask people, what's your role in your business, especially if you're self-employed or an entrepreneur, you want to sound like very proud of the fact that you own this business, right? And we all should be. The reality is, though, that as we talked about, there is a difference between you being self-employed and being an entrepreneur, right? So we've already answered it, but what we have to understand is that basically that breaks down into three categories: the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur, all right? Every last one of us has the potential to be all three, but every last one of us by default is one of those. Do y'all know which one it is? Just take a wild guess. Not the manager, the technician. So that technician is like that person that works at this job, that they're like great at their job, but they feel like the job just doesn't appreciate them, and they know they could run that business better, right? So then they leave that job and they go start their own business. And the first thing they do is they realize, like, oh, snap, I have to actually take care of some of these managerial and entrepreneurial positions, but I'm stuck in this technician position all day long. And this is where a lot of people, believe it or not, lose their connection to their customers. I'm not going to get so much into the weeds of that per se, but I want you to know the goal is to get you beyond just being that technician, knowing how to farm or knowing how to create a product. That's a technician's role. And then there's a manager's role, right? Someone who's actually going to kind of facilitate that activity. And then there's the visionary, the entrepreneur. And our goal is to work you up to that point, because as the visionary, that's where you had that passion to do the things that you wanted to do. But you get stuck in a technician's role, and then this thing becomes very arduous, and you're trying to figure out, like, how am I going to get out of this rat race? So part of why I gave you all these cards is I'm not going to read a lot of these slides all tonight, but I am going to make this entire presentation to you all available. So I'm not going to read over this slide. I do just want to point out, though, that those three roles can break down into the work that you do. They break down into the time that you spend. And they break down into how the money is dealt with, right? And so each one of those particular roles has a specific function as it relates to your business, right? Now, the easiest way to recognize that you're the technician is all of us are basically the janitor of our business before we're the president, all right? And when we accept that fact, then what we do is we create systems for each of the positions, and we literally promote ourselves through our business so that I know that if I've promoted myself from just farming into farm management, then I should be able to do what? Bring someone else up behind me to do some of that farm work. And until I can even do that, meaning until I have the time, the money, and the work figured out to put that position in place, I'm still in that position. And my goal should be to think about how I'm going to get beyond that. And so you literally promote yourself in order, as it states, through every position. And how you can do that in certain tasks, which most of these are going to be related to marketing and customer retention, is through using virtual assistances. So how many of you all have ever had the opportunity to utilize sites such as Fiverr, Elance, Odesk, or have you even heard of them at all? All right, just a few. So this is, to me, where the rubber meets the road for what we're discussing here today. So when you utilize these type of services, excuse me, let me do this. Let me explain this part before I go to that next slide, because I thought there was a slide after that pertaining to this section. But Fiverr, Elance, and Odesk are basically like the Uber for an assistant. So you could literally hire someone for, in the case of Fiverr, $5, and they could do all kind of work for you related to this very subject. You could literally have this person do e-blast marketing for you, send out promotional campaigns, customer follow-up, leafleting, you name it, just anything related to, like, hey, I just need you to go do this real quick. You have people in droves that are on there that'll do this kind of work for literally $5 for like 3 hours, right? So if you're able to literally place this in your budget, you can then create what's called like a marketing calendar. And this marketing calendar is something that I've been able to use very successfully with my farm, in which literally I can allot like 3-hour tasks to each one of these marketing sections. Hire somebody either through Fiverr or through even my proverbial virtual assistant networks, meaning like interns that I may know of through Good Food Jobs, or go to your local high school and talk to their work-study program and see if you can find students there that'd be willing to do these tasks. But have them do these things at very nominal fees. I mean, we're talking about literally $5. And you'll be surprised that after you stay consistent in doing these type of things after a couple of months, to where they just begin to roll on autopilot. And now, even though you're still doing some technical work, you've assigned a lot of these technical tasks that many of us just don't even have the time to do, to basically free employment. All right. So if any of y'all could hire a new staff member for $5 for $5 and you'd be interested in that, please raise your hand. Because if you don't raise your hand, the rest of y'all, I'm just going to say I love you, but you might miss something key here. That's not a punitive statement. I'm joking. I'm kind of Seinfeld with my humor. I'm not very slapstick, but I'm just saying, know that at the end of the day, labor is gold. That's all I can say. The more you can get people to put in work, the better. So how do you do that when you have people on staff? Use handbooks and use training manuals, right? Again, Spin Farming has literally created some that you can just purchase and plug and play your name into it and basically call it the Acme version of this particular manual, and literally assign tasks to people without having to physically be there. So for example, when who was it? CFM, Georgia Organics, Wholesome Wave, and Georgia Farmers Market Association all teamed up at the Alive Expo this year to present our organizations to the general public. I had a farm tour that was going on at my site that day. And so one of the students out of our Habesha Works program was able to literally take the manual that I gave her on how to just basically present my farm, and in 5 minutes get the entire scope so that she could give a farm tour to like 20 people while I was out working at Georgia Organics. And if I had to sit there and explain all those things to her physically, that might have took up like 2 or 3 hours worth of my time. But I literally manualized it, just put it into a Word document and gave it to her, and it was done. And now that particular tool also becomes something to where I can gauge how well you know what I've taught you. So it was one of those things where I literally was able to have the tour, as a result of having the tour, solicit new customers out of that tour, right? And those customers, I mean, of course, in a hypothetical scenario, could be the one that becomes like your greatest one, or it could just be a one-off. No matter the case, if I didn't do just that one little thing, which is create a system to teach that person, I might have missed that opportunity. So another thing you want to be able to have, of course, is handbooks to just literally assign the terms of your relationship with those people. This website right here literally lets you create a state applicable handbook for free. So it's already got all of the mandates relative to the state of Georgia or wherever you live built into this system. Once you type, I live in Georgia, it'll print it out in both either English or Spanish, and you literally can give it off to staff members and have them understand your terms as an employer or as a contractor, however you rate yourself with that staff member, so that, again, you can get right to the point of having them do some of these tasks for you. They will allow you to then get focused on some of the other tasks and bringing in your customers. This is the section on virtual assistants I wanted to highlight just a second ago. So a website like Fiverr is one in which you will go on there and you'll see like a profile, just like social media. I will be your virtual assistant for 3 hours for $5. Here's the turnaround. You could get 2-day delivery, have it done in a specific amount of time, or you can even add other tasks to it. But either way, she gives you a breakdown of the type of things she does, and then as you look into her profile, she'll tell you if you want to upgrade or change this, here's my price point. So in this case here, this lady has said, I will handle everything that a virtual assistant can do, such as retype scanned files, type PDF files, handle emails, eBay account management, research, manage and add products to your website, social media marketing, create banners and headers, photo editing, and anything else you might need help with, just ask. She, of course, states what she doesn't do, but when you go through some of these profiles, you'll find that there's people who will basically like run literally your marketing department. You can actually itemize Fiverr down to even specific tasks like that. So I would encourage everyone, if you've got at least a website or some type of residual marketing tool that you use at your site, like I think, Rusty, you have the cards that people can punch every time they come and get that. Instead, who designed it for you when you originally got it done? Did you print it out, design it, all that good stuff?
No, it was my idea, but the guy that did my t-shirts was able to do it.
Kind of threw it in. So do you think everybody has that luxury of having that kind of relationship, right? So if you can get somebody for $5 to do it, you know, it's worth it, in my opinion, to consider it.
And on that, though, it was like $50 an hour that you worked on it.
Right.
So $5 is a lot better than 50.
Right. And you'll find that if, let's just say, for example, the person doesn't give you exceptional work, I mean, what were you out? $5, you know. So let's get into literally establishing your marketing presence. This is just, you know, a home page for a website. Anybody, of course, can design theirs the way to be. The most important thing is get one. It blows me away to this day that at GO, when farmers will call in and ask me for certain help, they don't realize I'm sitting there at the computer, and first thing I do is Google, see if they even have a website, so that I can get some general idea of, you know, how they run their business. And a lot of farmers don't have them. So that would be the first thing I would encourage anyone to do. And it doesn't have to be ultra sophisticated. You can do e-commerce on a budget. They also have their own electronic card readers that can be used on a pad or on a smartphone as well. So, you know, it's basically the same experience as Square, but with a much more robust website. Sales venues, I'm not going to really go too deep into that. I'm sure most people have become pretty familiar with all the different sales venues. From the farmers markets, of course, co-ops and grocers, community-supported agricultural programs, food hubs, terminal market, you name it. Right now, the marketplace is pretty much going to stay pretty consistent. What I will say, though, is if you haven't tried it, pop-up markets is a great opportunity for many small food businesses. So the best place I find that they work are at private schools and churches. Definitely at private schools for sure. So if you can get a private school or even a preschool that will allow you to come at the end of the day when the parents are coming to pick their children up and set up a market for like an hour or two, those parents are going to love the life out of you. I can tell you that now. Because one, you're saving them a whole heap of time of having to go out again to find food, even if they want to have that farmer's market experience, to be able to just know, wow, while I'm picking up my daughter, I can stop and get some honey, some jam, some eggs, and my food, and be out. It's worth its weight in gold. I'm not going to tell you the schools that I do it at, so y'all can't take my competition. But there's plenty of preschools out here. No, I actually will say, go talk to Turning Sun Preschool. Because why I say that is that school I know would be probably very excited to have like a full-blown market at their site. So those pop-up markets, though, I think are going to be the new craze, to where we can even find our like own niche customer base that, you know, works just for our favor. Product development. This, I think, is going to be probably the last section I get into, only because this is where I think also all of us are probably longing for this level of professionalism, but we don't necessarily know where to get it. And meaning, like, we want our product to look and feel just as good as anything that you would get out of, you know, a Kroger, a Whole Foods, you name it. So there's some tools to your benefit that are actually provided by the state of Georgia. If you haven't had a chance, make sure you go look at the Georgia Centers of Innovation's website. And so what the Georgia Center of Innovation does, I learned about them at the Georgia Grown Conference last year, is basically they give you as a Georgia business access to the product developers for companies like Kraft, you know, and will literally help you formulate your product to where it has the same consistent look, taste, you know, consistency and its viscosity. Let's say if it's honey or something like that, labeling, you name it. And it's a service that they provide to, you know, the small agricultural business community in this state. So, for example, you can see it's kind of a blurry picture by choice, but they have like a muscadine wine bottle or muscadine juice bottle in the background. When you go to their website, they show you a video of how they worked with that particular client to develop their product. So that now, I mean, when they bring that product out to the market, I'm telling you, it looks like anything that a person would buy in a store. You know, no Avery labels on these bottles here. These are like, you know, quality products. And so hit them up because they also have revenue generation strategies. They do nutrition research, so they'll actually create the nutrition label that goes on the back of your product. They do process development, partner introductions, and they even have their own funding source through the One Georgia grant. I'll give you all a second if you want to write some of this down. And again, I'll also send you the presentation. What intrigued me about them is that when they presented it at the Georgia Grown Conference, it was actually a former product researcher for Kraft. And he's like the head of the department. And he was just like, basically, you all can seize my expertise that I use to make everything that y'all buy in Kroger for your own products. And that was it just blew me away to know that we even had access to that in this state. So their website is georgiainnovation.org. And you can go on there and do a lot more research and, of course, give them a call. And it's a program that's a part of the Georgia Department of Economic Development. georgiainnovation.org. All right. I'm going to just go through this real quick, but cheap ways to do storage and fulfillment, right? You know, literally housing your product when you're not selling it and then getting it out to the customer when you want to distribute it. So for those of you all who are growers, and I would say not even just growers, some value-added products need this. If you're not familiar with CoolBot, get with it. How many of y'all are familiar with CoolBot? All right, so you know, I mean, it's basically like the broke man's way to build like a $10,000 walk-in cooler for the price of one of those window air conditioning units, and that little box that overrides the thermostat and drops it from its default 64 degrees down to as low as 36 or even 32 degrees. And you could just do that in a room. So you literally just insulate a room, put the air conditioning unit in the window, hook that box up to it, now you got a walk-in cooler. Something that you could use so that now you can create volume product, right? So you don't have to worry about only creating enough that you know you can keep safe, right? As far as food safety issues are concerned. You can store them, you know, in your own makeshift walk-in. ShipStation. So for those of you who definitely have products that you know you can ship, you know, you want to check out this app. This is also one that can be synced to your Square account, basically to where they've already coordinated the relationships between those e-commerce websites you see on the left and those logistics companies on the right. So if you got honey, if you got jam, if you got something that you know can be packaged and distributed, now you can begin to market your product outside of the state. You don't have to just be stuck in Georgia. Again, yes, we want local to be the initiative, but the reality is, are you going to not sell a product to somebody, if you could, out of state that you know you could ship? I mean, I would think most of us would definitely want to get customers from where we can get them from. So keep that in mind. Soap makers, right? You know, ShipStation. And again, if it's synced to your Square Up page, then if you get that buzz on your phone that, oh, somebody's ordering something off my website, a couple of punches, you've just shipped it off. You didn't have to go anywhere. It did everything for you.
Are there other hoops you need to jump through in order to be able to ship out of state, like as far as any kind of approval, certification?
That's a good question. I haven't looked into that, so that'll be my homework assignment because, you know, the reason I began to look into using this is I was going to possibly do some like freeze-dry shipping of some produce items. Never got around to it, but again, I understand the value of this tool, so I just hadn't looked that deep into what you're asking. But that's a good question.
Yeah, especially with the agricultural product, hinge on like the amount of annual sales you're doing.
Gotcha.
And also the kind of license that you have.
Right.
Like food manufacturing or whatever.
That's a good point. Say again?
Depend on the product.
Yes. Right. Let's see here. Kodiak Cooler is basically just a company that sells like insulated packaging. So this would be like where you literally put together the package that you'll use through ShipStation, right? Being able to have an actual insulated bag that could house items that would normally perish in a day or two. The website is providencepackaging.com. So they literally sell the boxes, they sell the insulation, they sell the refrigeration gel, anything you need. providencepackaging.com. So now Keep It Cool is something that you can use very similar to how we made a makeshift walk-in cooler. You can make a makeshift refrigerated truck or a van or car. to where you can go and get these insulated bags that they have a zipper pocket that you can insert, just like the gel that you can like freeze and it's like an ice pack. You sit them in that. It will hold the temperature of the food that you put in there by 1 degree per hour from what the original temperature was when you put it in. So if you put it in at like 32 degrees, then if you didn't open that thing up for 8 hours, then it would be 40 degrees. So it's allowed me to do a lot of the restaurant sales that I was doing with the farm on a day-to-day basis and all day. Because if you've ever had to carry fresh produce in the back of a truck with that, bed exposed, I mean, if you don't have a buyer right then, or if you can't get it to them within about 30 minutes to an hour, I mean, it's spoiled. Or at least it's bad for the day, and you got to rejuvenate it with all these little fancy tricks we know on the farm. So a Keep It Cool bag is $30. The ice is free, and you can get these from Restaurant Depot right here in Atlanta. So if anybody knows where Top Golf is or over in that Howell Mill area, that's where the Restaurant Depot is. You can pick up those Keep It Cool bags, and now you can begin to solicit some customers that you may have not had the opportunity to get just purely off of the fact that you can store your product much better, right? So go check them out. I mean, they're, like I said, I've been using those bags now for about 3 years. When I was at TOW, I had bought my truck, and I was using them for like that last 6 months while I was there. So.
That big one.
Yeah, and the picture doesn't do it justice, but that bag is like, it's almost the size of those 6-foot tables. That $30 bag is about that size. So you can get 3 of those in a truck. And I mean, you can carry a lot of food in that. Crop box, basically just presentation, which I think is huge in retention of customers. Again, how well do you look when you're presenting this to them? So crop box are these corrugated plastic boxes specifically designed for people who do CSAs. But again, sometimes I take my restaurant deliveries in these just so it's like this nice, clean looking box every time I come. You can get them for so cheap, that's the box you leave, and then you just come pick it up on your next delivery. But they have like a small one and then a larger one. The corrugated plastic, they state that you can probably use them anywhere for up to 150 times. And they can just be rinsed off of water and soap and right back to usage, and even folded flat so that you can store them. So Crop Box, their website, at least it's on here, is farmwholesaleag.com, and then /produce_boxes.
And those are stackable?
They are stackable.
They hold a lot of weight?
They say they can hold up to 75 pounds for the smaller box and 100 for the large box.
We use totes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a little bit of stuff in the tote. Sometimes the tote's just way too big or
Yeah.
too small enough.
It's the larger box. I don't even think it's as wide as this. So the smaller box is about that size. The larger one's probably about that size. And that small box can hold 100 pounds. Basically, this was just a source where you can get like bags, but again, you can probably get those from many places. State Farmers Market, like at Matthews Hamper House. So if y'all have never been there, that's a local company, Matthews Hamper House. Your bags, your twist ties, you name it. Baskets. Yeah, we all get our bushel baskets there. Mm-hmm. But if you ever felt like you needed to order them online, you could. And I'm running a little bit behind here, so I'm going to speed up here. Basically, good cheap scale can always do you well. So you'll find the reasons why you may need that. Uline, of course, sells a lot of great items as well, plastic bags, twist ties, so look them up. So it's actually I think it's a Rubbermaid product, or who is it that makes it? You'll see it. They have like a section on scales, and this is the only one like that. The rest of them are like those $1,000 like super sensitive scales for like a butcher. But these, you could put one of those boxes on, tear it, and then dump 20 pounds worth of produce in there. And it's battery powered as well. How I learned about it is all my chefs kept verifying my order with this. And then I was just like, well, I might as well just use their standard. So I just bought one, and now, we have the exact weight as each other. And why that's important, I'll just say this. Scales are scales. I mean, they all have different sensitivities. So what you weighed at your farm or at your site that might be 10 pounds might be 9.5 there. And now they're like, well, if they're stingy, can I get that extra half pound? And it's just like, all right, if you just must, I'll do that. But that perception in itself can cut off a customer.
Round up.
So you want to, exactly, you were trying to get over on me, right? So I'm telling you, simple things like that also go into retention and bringing them in. Is that psychological effect of, okay, I trust this guy when he's selling me a product. Marketing consistently, creatively. Of course, networking, what we're doing here today is networking, right? But then you have so many different ways to do that. I'm just giving a few examples. Go to a Taste of Atlanta, for example, and just hand out business cards, find out what people want. Even just talk to regular Joe Schmoes who are there to enjoy themselves. And, you know, wear your shirt, you know, like this brother here, and just market who you are to the general public. You know, shameless plug, come to the Georgia Organics Conference and do a little networking there, you know, and learn a lot from all the great people who are there. Who knows, get Hugh to buy some of your product for his mini restaurants. And then the marketing mediums, which is going to be the last section that I get into. Ultimately, you know, keep a business card for obvious reasons, but figure out how to trick your business card out a little bit more than just having your information on it. So, you know, this slide is basically the front and back of a business card. Why not use the back of your business card as like a repeat buyer incentive? So that one, you know, the person is keeping the card because if they want to keep getting the incentives, then they're going to make sure they can get those hole punches on the back. But let your brand just stay in front of their face all the time. So that even though they've got so many other choices to choose from, whether it be at a CFM market or any other place, maybe there was just something about that experience with you, in addition to you giving them a percentage off every time they come, that makes them want to stay and work with you. This is something I didn't get a chance to print out, and I wish I really did, but it's called a credibility packet. So I've got an electronic version of one here. But basically what a credibility packet is almost like a fancy brochure for your business when you start to get into selling to like commercial clients. And this is exactly what was given. It was the manual that I told you about, and this that was given to the young lady that gave the farm tour to people at my site, so that if she's talking about the story of our farm, Nature's Candy Farm, and she's telling all this stuff about Tenisio and his wife and what they've done with this, but they still don't really get a chance to meet me, then they have to have something to go away with so that they'll feel like they had some connection to me in some way, shape, or form. That's what this can serve as, but also it can just serve as another way for your clients to remember you, especially, like I said, when you're going to big purchasers like restaurants or institutions. And literally all it is just like a fancy expanded business card. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, I don't know what happened there. I'll tell you what, anybody who wants mine, just email me and I'll send it to you. I think when that drive came out earlier, it might have disrupted that file. Literally all this thing does is it gives you a breakdown of like the products that we sell, how long we've been in business, why did we start our business, who we are. It's almost like taking the About Us section of your website and condensing it down into a brochure to leave at that restaurant. Sorry about that not working well. Canva, Canva.com, Canva. Use it. That's all I'm going to say. It's basically Photoshop for free online, and I'm talking about you can create some exceptional marketing materials with this. So one of the things I started doing is just creating like some little catchy questions to ask to my Facebook community, right? So in this case here, I said, you know, answer the following question correctly and win a $10 gift voucher. Sent that out on like a Tuesday, and whoever gave in the responses, I determined who won. I announced it again on Wednesday. So I kept you hanging for 2 days, you know, with my business and with my brand. And then, so, you know, that was the response that I sent out the next day, the answer to the question. Huh? Yeah, it was a math problem. I ain't gonna make it easy for you now. These that you saw were ones I created on there. And I've gotten way better. Like, this is kind of crappy now compared to what I can do now with this thing. But that was just amazing to me that, I mean, they got like real professional fonts. They even have sections on there where they tell you what fonts elicit certain emotional responses based on what you're trying to market. So, I mean, they're now getting you into the psychology of marketing. Like, why does Adobe Garamond work better than Times New Roman when you're trying to sell fish oil? All on Canva, yeah. So newsletters, of course, are something to create. Again, this is back when I just started, so I hate the way this one looks, but, you know, just go on to MailChimp, get you a free account and start blasting out your newsletters, and use their templates. In this case, at that time, I was trying to find a newsletter where it kind of prompted you to shop. But now my newsletters are literally more like a real newsletter, because when you click to read the article's on my website. So you're going to go there anyway and be prompted to think about shopping versus me just forcing you to look at product. But try what works for you. Stickers and other type of promotional material, shirts, stickers, eat more kale. Just get stuff that people can put, right, on anything that they could possibly think of, so that they're always thinking about you after they've left. Sometimes you may not even have the greatest product, but you're just hipper than everybody else. It's just that simple. This is one I do. This is just maybe the hustler in me. I go on Craigslist and just put ads together and just start advertising on Craigslist. It's free. Somebody's on there trying to find some free gardening equipment. I'm sure they like to eat local food too. I haven't gotten a response per se, but I keep doing it because it's free. You just never know.
How are you able to track it?
It's not the greatest tracking mechanism unless people are responding, but it's free. I mean, all I literally do is just copy my logo in there. I've already got the same text. I created like 4 different messages, and I just rotate those out so it doesn't look like the same ad all the time. Just let it run, man. This is a good one. So, Vistaprint. You can get your free model for your clothing on Vistaprint. And I'm going to show y'all how you do this. So you go on there, of course, you create the design. And then there's this point when they're like, do you want to preview what it looks like before you buy it? Sure. So I hit that. There's a little trick on your computer called screen capture. So if you just screen capture that image of that shirt all filled out with a body, you now have something that you can put as a placeholder on your website for your product. Or you can put it in your Square Up page. Why it's dope, though, is because you don't have to buy this stuff yet. Normally, you have to pay for all these shirts and have them sitting in a box in your house somewhere, and you're hoping you can sell it. Just put it on your website, and when somebody places the order for one, then you just go send that order to Vistaprint. And they've done all the housing, they've done all the logistics, they've done everything for you, and gave you a model at that for free. And so I've been able to sell many a T-shirts without ever having to have a stack of boxes in my house, because I just took that screen capture. And you can, trick out the shirt however you want to. I did one where I was like, I know this sister who's like Jamaican, and she's got like this foodie blog website she does. So I was like, can I use your brand to promote what I'm doing? She was like, sure. So I said, Jamaican gals eat organic, right? And then on the back, we put her company brand like it was a jersey, Shelly Wellness. So then she was able to market what she does, but at the very bottom, it has Asili Goods on there, and now we cross-promoted each other. So I'm getting customers from a totally different group of people that I never had even met before. Same thing, this one here, just go talk to a local church and be like, hey, can, I start advertising my business to your congregation on your website, and you say that you support my company. Again, I don't have to actually order the shirts. I just have a website with a picture, or they can put that picture on their website. And if I've done some pop-up market, right, and then people want to stay, in connection with me through paraphernalia or other things, that's a free relationship. I didn't have to pay for that. I didn't have to do anything but just do one pop-up market at that church. You could do that with those schools. You could do that with anybody. So the obvious things, get, some type of banner for your business. So I'm sure everybody hopefully has those. If you haven't thought about doing it, maybe just purchase a cheap decal for your car, magnetic. This is another one rooted in the Tenisio school of hard knock marketing. You ever seen those bandit signs that say, we buy houses? Why don't you just get one that says local and organic produce and just put it up? I can tell you now if those work. That Craigslist trick, I'm still hoping, but this works. Now, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. You can get fined for this. But just put a Google Voice number, and then you don't have to worry about it. So I'm just saying I do it. If you don't want to do it, I'm cool. But They don't find people. I'm just going to say it doesn't happen. And why it doesn't happen is because politicians would all be out of business right now. They all put bandit signs up. Do you think they're just finding them for, so maybe if they're just feeling bored and they just aren't getting enough money in the city, they'll start doing it. But I've never gotten hit, and I've been doing this for years in 2 different businesses. So come up with a catchy phrase, put your name, number, or whatever. Don't put very specific things about your business, and people will call you up. How can I prove it outside of this testimony? There's the Google Voice account where people started calling in, and they were like, man, I saw your sign, I want to learn more. And, I was able to set up sales out of that.
So you just set up a separate number for tracking?
Mm-hmm.
Different.
And hire a virtual assistant to go out and put the signs up. This is an ad that a lady will make for you on Fiverr. So this is going back to Fiverr. She literally has like what happened here? Okay, there we go. She has like this Hollywood-esque type voice and basically makes commercials for you for $5. And so, get a commercial with a physical person talking about your product that you can send out over Facebook for $5. I mean, this is quality stuff. They have all their little previews so you can see how they look and how they present before you hire them. I made a little movie one time off this site called Magisto. And Magisto allows you to make a trailer for the movie that you can send out over Facebook. So again, like you film like a regular movie, and I'm not going to show this whole thing, right? But this is like it running. And all I did is, let me see if I can at least give you a little taste of it. Is it going to work? Come on. It may not work because I moved it. Literally all I did is I made just like this creative movie about my farm. And then when you load the whole film into Magisto, it just finds like chunks that it takes out. It puts like music, visual effects, and it looks like a movie trailer, like a legit movie trailer for like 30 seconds, and it's free. And then you just send that out over Facebook. So like make some, just fancy schmancy video about your product, make a trailer about it, announce, hey, we're getting ready to release this commercial tomorrow, and put the trailer out. Build up the anticipation, and then tomorrow when everybody's waiting, put out the movie. And maybe attach one of those, hey, if you, are the first person to watch this, and just something creative, then I'll give you a sample product, or just some way to intrigue them to want to watch it. So with that being said, the main thing with all this is be, to a degree, happy writing checks. All right? So I saved like the most pressing statement towards the end, like, it's not going to cost you a lot of money, but don't be hesitant to engage marketing because you're worried about like, it's just another extra cost. There's a reason why people pay millions of dollars for Super Bowl commercials, because they work. And I can tell you right now, if you get real creative and use some of these cheaper marketing strategies that I've used, but they have the efficacy of like a big, large marketing campaign, I guarantee you can get an extra 1 or 2 customers a week that you didn't think you were ever going to have. And it begins to make you feel more confident about your presentation. It also begins to, again, draw you away from having to do a lot of those arduous tasks that the internet has already created for you to do. And so with that being said, this is now the point where we can have some quick questions, but we're then going to spend about 30 minutes really coming together as a group and seeing if we can flesh out some of the best practices that you all already know about and really jot those down, and we're going to kind of discuss those at the end of the session. So real quick, everybody, just the rules of engagement. Basically, all you're going to be doing is, in essence, sharing your best practices, but I want us to kind of categorize them in a way similar to how we looked at briefly the breakdown of the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur, right? So be able to figure out how the marketing techniques that you all know, or maybe even want to learn from others, can be, one, manualized, like how can I literally write a manual to describe what I do to market this product? Then 2, determine what is the amount of time you think it would take somebody to actually initiate this process. And then 3, what kind of costs are associated with this marketing technique? So if this is something you're already doing, then it's going to make you put your thinking hat on to really think like, okay, how do I, describe my marketing technique through time, money, and work? And then, of course, if you're a newbie to any of the techniques that are mentioned, then just take notes and see if it's something you can implement as well. And then we're going to share all of our best practices together. Can we go till the 45? All right, so we're going to go till 7:45. Someone needs to, of course, make sure that they're putting a master list together at the top. So if you all need to draft it and then put it up there, cool. If you need to scribble on there, whatever you got to do. But ready, set, go.
Yeah.
And, you know, just one of those frustrated farmers, know how you think. And that in itself is like, dude, he took every piece of soil from the old farm.
So we came up with social media is always not good for all of us.
And seeing the different pictures that come along with it, and click.
Our meeting, we run the video, Facebook Live video during the market.
So that's a perfect transition into the last two things I'm going to talk about. So one, how you were talking about being able to reuse stuff, right? It can be you reusing your own content that you've created, but I mean, anybody who's been on Facebook knows there's not too many people posting their own original stuff these days. It's literally just shares upon shares upon shares, right? So one thing you can do to really create a lifestyle brand out of your business is think about, like, what are all the different interests of people who come to my business, right? Is it just the soap that they're interested in, or is their entire lifestyle around why they would even use that soap? And what things do they talk about? What music are they interested in? And you can formulate your Facebook page or even your website around that lifestyle and draw from those kind of posts. So, for example, at Nature's Candy Farms on my Facebook page, you know, you know this very well. I'm posting stuff every day. By talking about another comrade in the movement, right? You know, that got me 1,488 views. You know, it had nothing to do with my product. It had nothing to do with anything that I even said. It's just, you know what? Let's talk about someone who's in this local food movement that people would like to read about, you know. And of course, the information should hopefully be something that can kind of connect people back to, you know what, this is why I would support this company. Because of their values, because of their principles, you know. Yeah, and humility as well, that's right. You know, it becomes a proverbial value statement every time you post something that makes your brand go viral. So consider that, your own content and other people's content, and use it to draw traffic, because if I had just put up, oh, the CSA is available, I guarantee you I wouldn't have got 1,400 hits, you know, but by talking about someone else, I did. And then, so moving into the last thing, which is why I wanted you all to try your best to categorize stuff, is I want y'all to write me, and I'm going to send you what's called a marketing calendar. And so this marketing calendar is going to be a way for you to really be able to designate time in your week and remind yourself to do this stuff, because that's the hurdle. Is we know all these different techniques, we know that they're easy, right? But it's like, do you want to just get up and do it when you're like, man, this frost is getting ready to come and I got to cover this bed, you know? How do you just force yourself to get over that hurdle and do it? Is you set a system of accountability up. So have a marketing calendar handy is important, because not only can you keep yourself in the loop of doing it, but it's trackable. So this marketing calendar is broken down by literally what the campaign was. So in this case here, it's like, okay, there was, and this is again a general marketing calendar. It says letters, postcards, newspapers, you name it. You create the categories you know work for your business. Create what the target market is. That's this area right here, right? Facebook, we know, gives a lot of analytics, so you can really know who your target market is. You know, it'll tell you age, gender, where they came from, if you look at just the hits, right? So you can create some target markets and then literally create, all right, what days will I be sending these out per week, per month, and go back and look at that stuff every month and just see, okay, what were the results I was getting from that campaign? I'm not going to lie, it's somewhat arduous at first. But when you see the results come in and you can really say, okay, I'm really seeing now what's happening with my branding and my marketing, it becomes a little more inspirational over time, if you will. So again, everyone, you have my card, please email me and I can send you this marketing calendar, as well as I have a marketing routine that even gives you some suggestions on when the best day to do certain type of campaigns are. So with that being said, I don't know if there's any other final questions or anything that the staff here from CFM needs to share with you all, but I appreciate you all allowing me to just spend this time with you, and thank you.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.